Hey humans, how's it going? Susan Ruth here. Thanks for listening to another episode of Hey Human Podcast. Before I get into talking about my guest today, I want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas. I know it's a couple days after the fact, but I hope everyone had a great time. I stayed in my pajamas all day, and I baked a pumpkin pie and ate a pumpkin pie while watching various binge-watchy stuff on Amazon and Netflix. So that was a lot of fun. My family is all back in Seattle. The mass of them got together, and unfortunately I missed out on that. But I ate my pumpkin pie, and I thought about them and watched my TV in my jams, and that was good. So I hope everyone else had a really wonderful Christmas, and I hope everybody has a fantastic New Year's. Please be safe. And I don't do resolutions. I wait till my birthday for some weird reason. I don't know why I do that, but it's just the way I've always done it. Here's to a really great new year. Hey Human has now been out. It'll be 2 years this coming July. 2017 has been really wonderful. Thank you everyone who have reached out to me, who have shared Hey Human with other people, who've talked about it and emailed me, which please always feel free to email me, susan@heyhumanpodcast.com. Thank you for those of you who did a support of Hey Human. I really appreciate that. Thank you everyone who's been using the Amazon affiliate program. For those of you who don't know, I linked up with Amazon affiliate program. So if you go to Hey Human Podcast, on that homepage at the top, there's a banner. It's an Amazon banner. You click on that. You shop Amazon like you normally would. And your shopping on Amazon helps support Hey Human. So I really appreciate that. Please continue to do so. It's not just for the holidays. It's forevermore. As long as Hey Human shall live. A reminder to please rate and review Hey Human on iTunes and whichever podcast app you may listen to it on. Follow me on the social medias, Instagram, Facebook, Hey Human Podcast. I have personal social medias under Susan Ruthism. Please follow me there. My Facebook, I think, is almost to capacity. I don't know. I think they tap out at like 5,000, and it's so hard to tell anymore which ones are real people and which ones aren't real people. So if you want to add me on my personal Facebook under Susan Ruthism, totally fine. Shoot me a little message or something so that I know you're an actual human being and not a robot. Speaking of robots, in 2018, I've got some really fantastic guests coming, including a professor of robotics and artificial intelligence. I'm super duper excited for that one. I've got a forensic anthropologist, a psychic, a white hat hacker, a recovering heroin addict, CDC epidemiologist. I've got a young woman who's going to be on the show. She's 15. I spoke with a couple people who are in their late 90s. Imagine 100 years on the planet. The stories are incredible. I'm super stoked. It's going to be great. What else do I want to talk about? Oh, for this particular episode of Hey Human, there's a ton of links on the link page of heyhumanpodcast.com. So please go there and check out all the links. And I feel like there was something else that I wanted to bring up, and I never remember all the things, even though I know what it was. I've written down everything that I wanted to make sure I talked about, but this was something I thought of at the last minute when I was putting together this episode. I realized, as usual, I say interesting and fascinating so much in this particular. I know I say it a lot anyway in every episode, but in this particular episode, it's crazy how often I say it. So I had a friend say that they envision the Hey Human drinking game, where every time I say fascinating or interesting, they have to drink. Well, if you do play that game at home, do it safely and know that you will be drunk at the end of this episode. Speaking of this episode, I sat down with John McPherson. He was very kind and had me in his living room talking about cryptocurrency. that is something that I think boggles a lot of minds, mine included. And he explained it so succinctly and patiently and answered my millions of questions. He is certainly an expert in cryptocurrency, and he's also he has been a citizen of Second Life, which is a virtual world, for a very long time. He talked about Second Life as well. Super interesting guy. See, there I go again. And a really nice guy, and so great. And he was kind enough to say, if you listen to this episode and you still have questions, you can reach out to him. His email is learnavatar@gmail.com. And again, it's on the heyhumanpodcast.com link page. But, just in case, there it is for you, learnavatar@gmail.com. You can always email me, Susan@heyhumanpodcast.com. Happy to forward any questions on to John. So, yeah, I think that's what I got for y'all for this episode, which I'm really excited about because I learned so much. And again, thank you for an incredible 2017. Podcasts exist because people listen to them, and I'm in awe and great thanks for you guys. Thank you for listening, and I hope 2018 will have content that excites you and fascinates you and makes you think and smile and cry and all the stuff, the human stuff. That's what we're here for. Thank you. Here we go. Hi, John McPherson.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm really excited to talk to you, actually, because some of our mutual friends connected me to you, and you know about something that so many people know nothing about, and even when they think they know, they don't really know. It's cryptocurrency, which is a huge craze. Is that the right thing to call it these days?
I think you're right. I think it's a paradigm shift in the way people exchange value. Mm-hmm. And the big idea behind it is something called blockchain, which is an open source software mm-hmm. that anyone can download and take a look at, which generally basically means distributed digital ledger.
Okay.
So
that's what a blockchain is.
That's what the blockchain is. It's basically just a bunch of information compressed into blocks and then linked in a chain mm-hmm. and then distributed to everyone that uses that currency.
In other words, if you and I both use Bitcoin or there's lots of different ones, that just seems to be the hot name, then you and I can see what each other's transactions are? Is that what
Kind of. First off, the transactions are all recorded.
Okay.
They are all anonymous, mm-hmm. but the IDs are open. So your wallet ID is visible. Mm-hmm. The recipient's wallet ID is visible. Now, information past that is not. So
you don't know what the money is for. You don't know where it's going. You just know how much you have.
You know where it's going. You know how much you sent. And you know where it came from.
Okay.
So those are all information contained in the blockchain.
So a blockchain, if you were to put it in real world terms, it would be like the ledger you use for your checkbook.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's an excellent analogy.
Only everyone else can see it.
And it's digital.
Yeah.
So everyone has a copy. Okay. Now the advantage of that is to defraud that system, you would have to destroy every ledger, every copy of the ledger.
Interesting.
Since it's on millions of cell phones all over the world, it would be impossible to do that, as well as impossible to say, hey, I have 100 Bitcoins. Everybody would look at their ledger and go, no, you don't.
Interesting. So let's go back to the beginning of cryptocurrency. How did this even start?
A guy named Satoshi something. Or maybe it's not even a guy, maybe it's just a group of people. We're chatting online and we're trying to come up with a way that they could exchange value over the internet. So mm-hmm. It was just a real simple concept of being able to send money to someone else or send value. And they developed an open source, which means anybody can see the source code, open source series of agreements and protocols to use when doing this.
Like a barter system in a way? Because why would you just use money? Which is also sort of a make-believe currency if you really get down to it.
It is. If a lot of people in this podcast will understand what fiat currency means, but it just means that the paper is not backed by actual silver or gold. It's just the government says it's worth this much, so there it is. And every time they print more paper money, it's worth a little bit less because there's more of it. It's the scarcity of a commodity.
Sure.
So with this, you can't really stuff a paper dollar through your laptop and it come out the other end. With Bitcoin, and I can show you how a transaction works, but basically you just open your phone, open your wallet, and then you can scan another person's wallet and send them the money directly. It goes across borders.
But can't you do that with regular money?
Not as fast as I'm about to do it. You basically just create a QR code, and a QR code is this little
weird thing.
Picture.
Yeah, the squiggles.
Yeah, the square.
Sure.
You scan it with this, and then it instantly will send that amount of money, whatever the person that created the code wanted, and they'll get it in a matter of minutes, as opposed to Visa or MasterCard.
24 hours.
Yeah, or even PayPal.
A lot of them are 24 hours.
Or more. Depending on the merchant, it could be 30 days or 60 days.
Interesting.
The other advantage from a merchant is it costs them a few cents to process a transaction instead of a percentage. Visa or MasterCard will take 2 to 3%. Yeah. And Bitcoin just takes really a few cents.
So if I'm dealing in a cryptocurrency, first of all, if it's open source, why is it crypto?
Excellent question. So the source code on how we interact is open. Our protocols and the set of instructions that we send to each other is open source. It is encrypted. This information that's passed across the internet is encrypted. So it is a third party couldn't just come into the network and see what was going on. But the crypto part of it is the blockchain is compressed and joined in a way that makes it very difficult to unpack.
Like a zip file?
Yeah, but crypto. You have to solve a math problem to open this file.
And apparently all of the math problems across the board. You can't open one without opening the others? Is that
every single transaction is contained in every blockchain.
Okay.
So everyone that has the wallet, the blockchain, has all the information since history of Bitcoin started.
Okay, so if all of this is, and I know that you're a big into Second City as well.
Second Life.
Yeah. Sorry, Second Life. Second City is the comedy troupe. Sorry, my bad.
Second Life.
Yeah. So in that world, for example, all the transactions going on are within the world, but you can get real world money, because I remember some of my friends did musical performances on Second Life, and that translated to cash in the real world, which to me is so bizarre. It's like going to some other planet and changing your currency out and then coming back to this dimension or,
Well, it's still going on. Second Life is as big as it's ever been.
Yeah.
It's still free to join. You can play music in Second Life. You can actually earn money. And the way that works is you can sell that money to other players in the game.
For real money.
For real money that you can get through PayPal.
Yeah.
Second Life and PayPal work together, so they send the money through PayPal and it comes to your account. Now, what does happen, and what happens to me and what happens to anybody in the United States, is we declare that income to the IRS and pay taxes on it.
In Second Life.
In the real world.
Okay. That's what I meant. Sorry.
Yeah,
the money you make from
Second Life.
Second Life. You have to pay tax on that, but do you with cryptocurrency?
You do.
You do.
So
the government is paying attention.
Yeah, it's just hard. It's just hard to get their hands on it. Coinbase and Kraken are two of the largest exchanges in the United States. To get one of those accounts, it's similar to opening a bank account, if not more difficult. So they have all your information. So if you sell a bunch of Bitcoin on Coinbase or Kraken and you don't report it to the IRS, that information still goes to the IRS, and they'll send you a letter and say, hey, why didn't you report this income?
So the rumors that cryptocurrency is a way for money laundering and all that stuff, is that unfounded, or is that also a thing? Just like any banking is a thing.
That is a thing, and just like any technology, the early adapters were on the edges, some of them, not all of them, but some of them were on the edges of legality. And that would be drugs,
human trafficking,
prostitution, weapons, just all the bad things that happen in the world.
Sure.
That you can do with cash, people did do with Bitcoin and still are doing.
Sure.
So the crypto part of that makes it very hard to track if you don't transfer that into paper money or some other kind of asset that has to go through an exchange. If you're just giving somebody a Bitcoin and they give you back a Bitcoin, indeed, that is very hard to follow.
So how does that translate into, as you say, first world, or first life, sorry, I'll get it eventually, first life, if all my money is in Bitcoin, for example, and I want to go buy a house, it's not like I can go up to a mortgage guy and say, hey, you can.
You can. You just can't do it without claiming that as income and not get a letter from the IRS.
You have to translate the Bitcoin into first life money?
You don't, but you do have to report it.
Okay.
So you can buy a house from someone in Bitcoin.
Okay.
But if you do it in the United States and you don't report it, there's a good chance that the IRS will send you a letter.
Okay.
So instead of doing that, what you should do is buy the house from somebody in Bitcoin, and then on your taxes, claim that property as income, as something that you've acquired. It comes into your possession, so it's income.
So in a way, is the cryptocurrency world like a Second Life world?
That's an excellent analogy. I've been with Second Life since 2006, before Bitcoin, and we were trading virtual currencies, since then. So for me, this is kind of old hat. Yeah. Bitcoin came around in 2010, and I wasn't smart enough to be one of the early adopters, but I still think that we are way ahead of the bubble, this big Bitcoin craze that everybody's talking about. It's just
like Beanie Babies?
Yes, this is just the very, very beginning, and it's different from Beanie Babies because Beanie Babies soared to a value beyond their actual worth.
Sure.
So did the tulip bulbs in Holland and other bubbles. There was a great tulip bulb bubble in Holland in the 1600s, where tulip bulbs went to like thousands of dollars each. They are not worth that. A Bitcoin is.
Because money's value is determined by demand.
That's a good way to put it. And the way I try to explain it to people is anybody that bought a Bitcoin yesterday for $19,000 is not interested in selling it today for $16,000. So the value is just the collective's value of the product. And what I mean the collective is the people using Bitcoin. A few days ago, a futures market opened up on Bitcoin trading. So now you can actually sell Bitcoin, short it, if you will, if you think it's going down. So there's markets that will level out the price. If somebody wants to sell Bitcoin, it's easy to sell. If somebody wants to buy, it's easy to buy. But the long-term trajectory of Bitcoin and several other currencies is probably going to continue to go up because of the scarcity. There's only 21 million Bitcoins total.
Oh, so it's not a regenerative.
It does not. So there's 20, and that's part of the code. This is part of the open source code that you can examine and look at line by line. So the 21 million coins are distributed through mining. Mining, in layman's terms, is processing the transaction. So computer A wants to send $1 to computer B. Computer C processes the transaction, verifies that A and B are both correct, basically unwraps this blockchain, this big, long crypto file that we're talking about. And for processing that $1, they are given a small reward. Maybe,
the middleman.
Yeah, but maybe like a cent or 2 cents or something really tiny.
In Bitcoin or in real money?
In Bitcoin. And the dollar was a bad example. Let's say $100.
Okay.
Then the person in the middle would probably make 10 cents, 20 cents, something
so
tiny.
So they're like a teller in a way, or
a
lender, I guess. In a way.
Broker would probably be a better term.
Okay.
Because they're buying and selling, but not even that. It's more of a verification. I am just processing the transaction. I'm approving. I'm verifying that all the parties
You're
wanted
making
to do
sure
this.
A and B are legit.
Legit.
And I'm C going, all right, A, it's legit. All right, B, it's legit. And for my knowledge of this legitimacy, you give me a penny or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And that kind of segues into the next generation of cryptocurrency.
Which is?
Ethereum Classic.
Ethereum? ETH, as in the
like ether.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which has now split off into two, just like Bitcoin is now split off into several different currencies. There's
still with the 21 million?
Yeah.
Thousand. What did you say it was? 21?
Yeah, 21 million. Well, let's take a step back and let's go back to the first generation cryptocurrencies. And that's Bitcoin and Litecoin and coins like that. There's 21 million Bitcoins.
Total with all the different versions.
That's
when you refer to the others.
Question. That's a good question. I'm not positive of the answer on that, but I think those others are completely separate. I don't think they count as a 21 million. But someone else that's listening, please verify that. So what the scarcity means is these 21 million coins are distributed to people that mine. And every certain amount of time, every few months or every year, whatever, that reward halves. Mm-hmm. Meaning instead of getting X, you're getting half X for doing the same amount of work. Mm-hmm. So what that does is it requires...
It's not very incentivizing.
It's the opposite for the miner. It de-incentivizes.
Yeah.
So then the miner has to go out and buy more computers, and now it's more expensive to mine Bitcoin. So once the miner gets that Bitcoin, they're going to be less likely to want to sell it on one of the exchanges.
Which makes the value increase.
Yes. Times the adoption rate. So you take that factor... Okay, it's already increasing there. Then you multiply it times every new person that decides to buy a Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. Now, one statistic people like to point out is that Bitcoin transactions are flat. But people buying a cup of coffee with Bitcoin, airplane ticket, all things you can actually do with Bitcoin. That has not really increased much. Mm-hmm. What has increased is the amount of people owning Bitcoin. A lot of people are just buying it and hanging on to it as a store of value. So those people are being rewarded by holding the currency and not selling it. Not, if it goes up $100 quick, you sell it. Well, the people that don't are rewarded by holding it longer. Back in April, you could buy a Bitcoin for $1,000. Now, a couple of days ago, it was at 20,000. So that's a 20 times return in value. Not only is it not going down in value, it's going up. So the more people that want Bitcoin, the higher the value will go up. And then the harder it is to mine Bitcoin, the less the miners will want to sell to these new people. So you have a 2 times factor of why this is going up.
If the miner is the middleman, for lack of a better word, right, the one that's verifying on either side of the transaction, isn't it A that makes the decision as to whether to sell? If A says, I want to give Bitcoin to B, and C, the miner, is the one verifying, but still isn't the power in the hands of A?
Exactly.
Okay. I can't believe I'm following this. It's insane.
Yeah. The A is the sender. B is the recipient.
So why does the miner then benefit by holding on? By telling A, no, you can't sell?
Well, a miner wouldn't do that. A miner would tell A that B doesn't exist, or that
so not
B,
lying? What?
Yeah, like B doesn't exist. They're a fraudulent wallet, so they're trying to steal the Bitcoin from you.
So they can lie?
The amount
this
is different.
Like a weird sort of bluff.
Yeah. It's
like Vegas.
But very few people do it that way because it's so easy to get caught. There is no getting away with it.
Okay.
So it's a built-in prevention for this to happen. But let's say B was a bad actor. Instead of $10, they typed in $10 million. And so A unknowingly says, oh, $10. Okay, I'll just send $10. Well, B has actually requested $10 million. So C would deny that transaction because the amounts don't match up.
Sure. Right.
So it's not telling either party it can or can't do it. It's just telling them this do not match.
How does one become a miner then?
Any person can be a miner. The network is open, so all you have to do is log in, and it will assign you a problem. It will assign you a math problem to solve. Most individual people...
I'm already out.
Well, most individual people don't have the horsepower in their personal home computers to do this.
So
when it first started...
It needs a powerful...
Very.
Okay.
When it first started, you could. And a lot of people just mine these in their home computers at home and made tons of money. But now, it's becoming so hard to solve these math problems. You literally have to have the newest, fastest, high-speed processors running at the optimal temperature.
And what is the math problem?
It is unwrapping the cryptology protecting the blockchain.
Whoa. How in the world would you know how to do that?
You don't have to.
The computer does.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say I have 20 Bitcoin, which is what, $400,000, right? If it's valued at 20 grand.
Yeah.
So
it's 17 today, but
okay. Yeah. Well, let's
20,
just for ease of numbers, let's make it round. And let's now am I able to translate that into US dollars or yen or whatever it is? And how does that process work? Because do the banks become C at that point?
No, the banks do not become C. Coinbase or Kraken would become D.
And they have real world first life, I'm going to get this, first life dollars that they say, okay, we will be the broker for the Bitcoin. You sell it to us and we give you cash that you can then put in your normal bank.
Correct. Coinbase and Kraken.
Assume they take a cut, I guess.
Yeah. Coinbase takes about 3%. Kraken takes about 0.3%. So Kraken's for the big investor, the big buyer. Coinbase is for your average person. And the way I get money into and out of either one of those is from wire transfer. So I go to my bank, fill out a form, hand it to the assistant, whatever, and they send it off. And then a few hours later, it's credited to my Kraken account.
So we could look at cryptocurrency as if Magellan had discovered another continent, and on that continent, this is the value and system.
It's an excellent analogy, and later in the conversation or whenever we segue, I'll get to the second generation of cryptocurrency, and that is a equal leap, Magellan-sized leap from cryptocurrency. What's around the corner is so much more amazing than what people realize right now.
All right, so is there a protection in place where some power that be won't suddenly say, hey, there's 21 million coins in circulation, let's make it 40 million? Is that
it's
ever
impossible because the code is open source.
So
it's written that way.
It's truly what comes
finite.
out. Yeah, and then that's, you said, true for all the other versions.
Do
they speak
other
to
coins,
each other?
The developers do. The people that create these other currencies do. Every currency has its own protocols and set of rules. The ones that were not, in my opinion, valid, a lot of those have already died off. The ones that are more like Bitcoin that do have a scarcity and do continue to rise in value are continuing to rise in value. Monero is up today to $460 something.
Wouldn't it behoove me as a miner, instead of being a miner, is to figure out how to develop a program to write a code that would make these coins?
You're talking about gem code or gem coin. And gem coin, let's just pick a name of a gem. Let's call it Bob's Gem. And Bob has a gem in every city in the United States. When you join Bob's Gem, you're given 100 gem coin. All right? The next person that joins, let's say, gets 99 gem coin. So it rewards the early adapters.
Makes sense.
Let's also say every time you refer someone to Bob's Gem, you get 100 more gem coin, and they get 100 gem coin for joining. So now you've created an incentive with your own company. It really didn't have anything to do with becoming the next Bitcoin. You're just trying to get your customers to have this little reward. So instead of one currency becoming the end-all be-all, I predict thousands, if not millions, of different currencies cropping up with every little organization and group that wants to reward members, that wants to reward behavior, that wants to encourage people to use their product. You can give away a coin the same way you would give away a coupon or a rebate or an incentive. Or
is that something you want to do?
That's an excellent question. I would love to. I don't know if I have the energy or time. But let's just say energy and discipline to do that. It would take a lot of work, and you would have to evangelize and win people over. My daily activities. I don't know if they have time for that. I have been approached by a really large group that would like to build their own data center and mining operation. So I have considered some mining avenues. I have not considered my own coin yet, but maybe if I had the right help, if I had the right basically someone else to do it, and I just told them
Sure.
what I wanted to build.
Like if you have a great idea for an app, you still hire a designer or a computer person to do the zeros and ones.
I really need the adoption rate. So if I found a person with, let's say Bob, who owns Bob's Gym, and he'd never thought of this idea. So if I found Bob and he wanted to do it, then I would definitely implement it for him. But I would hire other people to do it, and I wouldn't necessarily do it myself.
It's really quite fascinating. So what is this next generation?
I'm so glad we got to this part.
And is Picard at the foot?
I'm so glad we got to this part because this is smart contracts. I encourage everyone listening to this podcast, go to YouTube, type in the word smart contract, watch the 6-minute video on what a smart contract is. I'll try to explain it myself briefly. Contract is a piece of paper that two people sign and agree on something. A smart contract is just a digital version of that. And in Ethereum Classic, Ethereum has two different strands now. There's Ethereum Classic and there's Ethereum. I'm a Ethereum Classic guy. There's other people out there that are Ethereum. But both of them have something built into the coin that will allow you to set restrictions to the transaction. So let's say you want, before you send the money, you want the shipper to put in the UPS number for the shipping package. Mm-hmm. And you can hold that money in escrow, for lack of a better term, until you actually receive the good. Mm-hmm. Then once you receive the good, you type in whatever you're supposed to do on your end, and the transaction sends. Mm-hmm. So it's like a Bitcoin transaction with an emergency brake or a verification system. And
Isn't that what C is, though?
C?
Isn't C the verification?
Oh, okay. Yes, and it's just a single transaction. Bitcoin is just moving value from point A to point B. A smart contract allows you to do that transaction in segments. So the first segment is I put some money into the Ethereum Classic coin. The second part of the transaction is, let's say I'm buying a car. The guy on the other end enters in the shipping date and shipping number of the car. All right. And then when I receive the car, I enter in a third set of information that says the car is received. Here's the tax ID number or whatever other information you want to put in. And then the Ethereum goes to the seller.
But doesn't it require a lot of trust on the seller's part?
That's an excellent question. So and I'll do this scenario really quickly, but let's do a pretend scenario.
Okay.
You're going to buy a car for, let's say, $40,000. Mm-hmm. And there's a paper contract on your left, and on your right, there is a smart contract. Now, the paper contract is to a car dealer, reputable car dealer. They're in town. And with the paper contract, you also give them a cashier's check for $40,000. They take the cashier's check, deposit it in their bank, and the car is supposed to be here in a week. Okay? Over here, the same thing happens, except instead of a cashier's check, in your smart contract, you deposit Ethereum Classic. Mm-hmm. All right? And then a week later, the car is supposed to ship. Okay? So a week goes by and neither car arrives. Which contract would you, as the buyer, which contract would you rather have?
Oh, the smart one, of course.
So the smart one, the money instantly comes back to the buyer. You don't have to do anything to the seller. It just never went through. You never entered in, I received the product. On the paper contract side, you have to go to the dealer, ask them for the money back, maybe have to sue them, maybe have to do all sorts of other things. With the smart contract, it's just instant.
It's great for the buyer, but my question is, how do you convince the seller to send a product before they get paid?
Because the proof is on the buyer to prove that it arrived or didn't arrive. So if the shipper enters in the shipping number and gets back the receipt from the shipper that it was delivered, here's the signature, then the buyer, the transaction is completed, because that's what the buyer specified and the seller specified at the beginning.
Sure.
They specified that you had to put in this information and I have to put in this information. So if neither party puts in the information, then it doesn't go through. It's
null and void. Yeah. But still the seller does have to trust that the buyer's money exists and all that stuff. Or is that just an automatic?
Well, the seller doesn't have to trust that the money exists, because they can see they're part of the smart contract.
Part of the chain.
And they can see this Ethereum that's full. So the buyer does his part.
So they know it's there. They just can't access it until the
shipper provides the delivery
all right, that makes
information.
Sense. All right.
So there could be 3 or 17 different parties involved in one contract.
Right.
It takes the central point out, and the central point would be the court systems, the banks, anybody that could. In this other scenario with a paper contract, someone would have to get you your money back.
Sure.
You couldn't just walk into the dealership and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, here's your 40 grand." There would be some sort of process. With Ethereum, it's instant. Ethereum process.
So, what are your feelings? 2 questions. What are your feelings about all the people who are like, "Oh, this Bitcoin, this is all just gobbledygook"? If you look all over the internet, people seem really confused by it and even mock it. How do you feel about that?
I was in that camp for 6 years.
Okay. What changed your mind?
I finally read what blockchain meant. Mm-hmm. Before then, I had no idea. I'd heard the word. It sounded interesting, but I didn't really understand what blockchain meant. Once I understood that it's a digital distributed ledger, I figured out that this is legitimate. It is secure. What got a lot of people off of Bitcoin was the Mt. Gox scandal. And Mt. Gox was an exchange in 2011 that was hacked.
Okay.
Now, some of us believe the owner of Mt. Gox just simply turned off his website and kept all the money. That's been disproven by certain people in certain ways, but anybody can think whatever they want to think. So what happened in 2011 is a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's a big fraud, it's a scam, it's a Ponzi scheme, we're getting our money out." What actually happened is, we were talking about firearm safety before. There is crypto safety that you should employ when you're using cryptocurrency. And one of those ideas is, don't store a large quantity of coin in an exchange. Use an exchange, get the coin out, and put it into what's known as a hardware wallet.
Okay.
A hardware wallet is different from the Bitcoin wallet on your phone. A hardware wallet looks like a USB CD drive or a key drive. You stick it into your computer, you download the cryptocurrency onto that, and then you can put that in a safety deposit box or in a safe or anywhere you want to.
Like it was a gold bar.
Like it was a gold bar, and then come back 10 years later and plug it back in, and you would still have that same amount of Bitcoin.
Interesting.
You'd probably be a billionaire at that point, but it's much more secure than keeping it on your phone, and much more secure than keeping it in an exchange, especially an out-of-country exchange.
Well, you bring up a really good point. And is there a big concern with hacking as far as this cryptocurrency? And also, is there a concern that some power that be will, like you said, suddenly go, "I'm going to keep it all. Y'all are fucked"?
That happens. Less reputable exchanges pop up and close every day. So
you really have to do your due diligence like you would researching a bank.
I prefer using a U.S.-based exchange, because they'd get arrested and thrown in jail if they did that. Mt. Gox was based in Asia, and I'm not sure whatever happened to that guy.
Yeah, they unleashed the tigers on them.
Yeah, I would. I mean, it destroyed...
They only had 3,000 tigers, but they unleashed all of them.
It literally destroyed people. A friend of my friends literally killed herself.
Oh my God.
After this hack, because she had amassed a fortune in Bitcoin. This was back in 2011, so she was an early adapter.
Did she not have money in first life?
She did. Just the amount of wealth that was lost in the Mt. Gox fiasco was tremendous, and she was one of the bigger ones that got hit. She was devastated.
Yeah.
You'd gone from basically broke to rich, back to broke in a matter of a year. And
now I find that fascinating that she would. I mean, I'm sorry if your friend, that's horrifying.
Well, it's a friend of a friend. So
okay,
I didn't actually,
but it's just, to me, because it's hard to wrap your brain, which is living in the matrix known as the real world, whatever you want to think about that. But to think, all right, in this dimension or whatever. I go out, I have a job, I do my thing, somebody gives me real money, green stuff, I stick it in my bank, I'm fine. But in this other world, I've amassed $1 billion in Bitcoin, and I'm assuming buying things with that and living a lifestyle with that, right? That is still translatable, just like regular cash is translatable to goods and service and all that. But losing that, you still have the real world money, do you not? That's where I'm confused,
Bitcoin,
I guess.
the Bitcoin was real world, and she lost real world money when she lost the Bitcoin.
That's where I get confused.
So in 2011, when this scandal happened, she could have sold that Bitcoin through another exchange and turned it into green actual cash and put it into a bank.
She didn't have that kind of money then, I guess. Like all of her money was basically in this ether world.
Yes.
Okay.
But she could have taken it out, or she could have taken half of it out, or some of it.
But it all was lost.
So it was real, and it was real.
I think that's it's such a hard thing. I think this is where people get confused. It is very strange to try and wrap your brain around the concept of this money here in the ether, and then this money here, which I would argue is also ether money.
It is.
I mean, that's the thing that's so funny is the people that make fun of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. I often say, but isn't, your $1 bill that says E pluribus unum, isn't that fake? Really?
Okay, let's say you've got a bar of gold.
Yes.
And you want to send that to your mother in, let's say, Venezuela.
Okay.
All right. How long would it take to get there, and how much would it cost you?
Don't know. A lot. Those are heavy.
Okay, so big on both sides. Let's say you wanted to send her a Bitcoin.
You just do it over the internets.
It would take minutes.
Yeah.
And there are literally thousands of people selling toilet paper, toothpaste, condoms, medicine,
the important
food,
stuff.
anything you can buy. They're
Amazing.
selling them in Venezuela, and toilet paper happens to be the most popular.
With Bitcoin.
With Bitcoin. So this guy that had an air conditioning company in Venezuela, he was on 60 Minutes or some show. It's literally starving. I mean, they've literally lost weight. The average Venezuelans lost 10 pounds.
Starving.
They're starving to death.
Absolutely.
So this guy that had an air conditioning company was doing really good before whatever happened. And nobody, and nobody wants to buy air conditioning anymore. They don't have any money. So that was one of the first things to go out. So he went from this very comfortable lifestyle down to almost nothing. Now he sells literally toilet paper for Bitcoin. So he'll deliver. He's got I don't know, he must have bought a warehouse of toilet paper or something, but he'll go around and deliver toilet paper to people, and they'll Bitcoin him, $1 worth of Bitcoin or $3 worth of Bitcoin. So it's literally saving lives. 4/5 of the world does not have access to a bank account. Those people keep their money in their home.
But they have access to internet?
Yes.
Fascinating.
Yes, much more of the world has access to internet than a bank account. It's kind of like the landline phone. Cell phones came along and jumped right over landline in Asia and Africa. There's no such thing as landlines in those countries, in large parts of them. But there is cell phone service. So, at a library, at any place that has access, you can access your wallet. You don't have to put your wallet on a cell phone. You can keep your wallet just in the internet. As long as you have an email address and you have your login and password, you can go to whichever wallet you want to use and just use the wallet on their site. You don't have to actually download it.
I feel like hackers would have a heyday with this. I'm sure they've tried.
They will. So that's the easiest hack. I call it a human hack. That's where you leave your phone open at Starbucks and somebody zips out all the Bitcoin. Or you, in an email, tell your mom your wallet ID and the password, and that she can get some Bitcoin out. It's called a human hack. The idea of a computer being able to hack into the network is false, because we're already using the fastest computers we can possibly buy at great expense to just process the normal transaction. It would be impossible to come in with a smaller computer or even the same size array that I'm using and hack into one of these transactions. The software hack doesn't ever happen. It's always the people hack.
But if the miner C has a computer that is powerful enough to unpack A's transaction to B, who's to say that that same computer won't be able to hack?
Initiate a transaction, to be more specific. If you wanted to use, let's say, my mining equipment to initiate a transaction for someone else's wallet, number one, it would be impossible because you wouldn't have their wallet
or their permission
number. You wouldn't need their permission. If you had their wallet ID and the login, you could log into their wallet.
Okay.
So you wouldn't have their wallet ID, so you couldn't originate a transaction from their account.
Couldn't it be just a randomized, the way people fish for passwords? I mean, you can't just make a computer program that randomly selects.
At 36 characters, it's beyond the capability of current technology.
Interesting. But not for unpacking, but for...
Well, you're talking about doing a brute force hack of 36 characters, and at about 12, that's where our current computing stops these days.
Okay.
If you wanted to just try every 12 character possible combination.
Do you think cryptocurrency will usurp physical currency that we use now?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
How far down the line? 100 years, 20 years, 10 years?
20 would be a conservative estimate. 10 would be an aggressive estimate. And I've been completely shocked by Bitcoin since its existence. So I'm thinking that my estimates are overblown.
But with only 21 million coins, that seems to me then there won't be a whole lot of access. There's a few extra more people on the planet than 21 million.
A Satoshi is the smallest part of Bitcoin you can buy.
Okay.
So people always ask me, I don't have 20 grand to buy a Bitcoin. And my response is you can buy a tenth of a Bitcoin for $2,000. Or you can buy a 20th of Bitcoin. Or you can buy a Satoshi. Or Satoshi. I can always mess it up. But that's a decimal and then 6 zeros.
Okay. That's like a songwriter paycheck.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a songwriter royalty. And actually, they're getting into paying songwriters with a blockchain type app. So it's bleeding into every business.
That's interesting.
But you could literally send a penny's worth of Bitcoin, or a half a penny's worth, or a tenth of a penny's worth of Bitcoin. So it can get very, very small. So access, I think, will always be there.
Okay.
I think people will always be able to buy Bitcoin, or they'll simply buy a competing currency that's not as high. If Bitcoin ever becomes so much where Satoshi is, $1,000, then people start buying Ethereum classic coins or a different kind of coin.
So perhaps the best way for people to understand what cryptocurrency is to take out the mythology of it and instead look at it as if you're just traveling to another country and that's their currency.
That's an excellent way to put it. I would recommend learning two terms: blockchain and smart contracts. If you go to YouTube and type in those two words, two terms, you'll get a 5-minute video for each that'll explain what it's doing. The interesting part with smart contracts is now it no longer becomes about money. Let's pretend your smart contract is your personal medical record. Mm-hmm. In that smart contract, you can set who you allow to view that record: your doctor, your insurance company, your parents, your spouse. You can also set permissions on how much of that file they can view. And what do I mean by your file? I mean every MRI, every image, every note, every prescription, everything that's ever happened in your life. If that could be packed into one file and stored on the blockchain, now every person that has, let's call it medical coin. It's not even a coin. Let's just call it medical coin. Every person that has medical coin downloaded to their phone or on their computer has a copy of everybody else's records.
Well, that's crazy.
Except
that sounds not good.
Except they are unable to view them. They're only able to view their record in the blockchain.
Okay.
And they're only able to set permissions for other people to see their record.
What's the benefit of having everyone's connected? if we're talking medical records.
Okay, so you go to Tahiti and you have a heart attack and you're in the hospital. You want your records from the United States sent to Tahiti. Go. How long is it going to take you?
A minute.
Okay,
like
get started now.
Probably 48 hours
Okay.
at least.
Okay, with a smart contract, if you had that information already encoded and encrypted into the network, anyone with a medical coin or Ethereum Classic wallet could unpack your file if they had permission.
So this is the wave of the future. And
medical records, banking records, tax records. The state of Georgia, not the state in the United States, but the country of Georgia in Eastern Europe, is recording property deeds on the blockchain. So what was happening in Eastern Europe, every time a new fiefdom would come in and take over the country, they would have a big fire. And in this fire, they'd put all the tax documents, all the land deeds, all the everything, and have a big fire and a cleansing. And then they would distribute the land back out to their friends. Well, the people in Georgia got wise to that, and they started encrypting their deeds into the blockchain, into the ledger. So now when a new leader comes in and says, oh, I'm going to give this house to my buddy, everybody in Georgia's like, nope, here's the deed. We all have a copy of it. It's a distributed
power to the people.
Power to the people. The people that are saying, so many of my friends from the left are saying that this is a way to marginalize poor people and a way for the rich to get richer. They're missing the big idea of what we're trying to accomplish here. We're trying to actually give the world's least the same power that the world's greatest have, the same access to this financial network that 1/5 of the world has access to. Only 1/5 of the world has a bank account. So we're trying to give the other 4/5 of the world the power to do the same thing we do with money. If you lived in the third world and let's say you had $100, that'd be a considerable amount.
Yes.
You would keep that in your house. It'd probably be in paper money. And if there was a flood, a fire, or much more likely theft, you would lose all your money. So everybody knows in certain countries when the people leave their homes, all of their entire life's wealth is stored inside that home. They're not going to take it with them to work, so they know to rob them when they're out.
Right.
What we're doing is we're giving these people a place to store value as long as they want.
It's really
in a
fascinating.
safe, secure
It
environment.
really is. I'm curious to see where it will go. It's fascinating. All right, let's segue into. I'm sure there's questions, and if there are questions, be on the show again.
Sure.
People can
love
email
to.
me, Susan@heyhumanpodcast.com. Or can they email you and ask questions?
Sure. My email address is learnavatar@gmail.com. So that's the word learn like you're in school, the word avatar like the film, @gmail.com. No spaces, no dots.
Yeah, okay, cool. All right, so let's segue to Second Life. Explain a little bit, just in case people don't know what Second Life is, explain what that is and then why you became involved and how you're involved.
Second Life is a virtual environment where people become maybe a version of themselves that they cannot be in real world or first life. And a lot of people call it a video game, but it's more of a simulation where you...
Which this might be, by the way.
Yeah, we could be stuck in one right now. But yeah, a lot like The Matrix, and a lot of the early ideas came from books like Snow Crash. There's another book out called Ready Player One that they're about to have a film that's coming out that basically the guy that wrote the book probably got his idea from playing the video game or from playing Second Life. So it's a way to log in to another universe that's all digital where people have houses and cars, and you can go into their house or you can go into their office and you can interact in real time and see the other person and see their gestures. So it's like a video game where you get to play the characters, but
It's
any
like
character
Avatar.
you want. It's like Avatar, like the film Avatar.
Right.
It's a great way to put it.
Yeah. And as I said at the beginning of this conversation, I've had friends that have performed in Second Life and made money, which I would love to know how to do because I would be all over that. But I assume you have to build up a presence in a world like that.
You do, or you have to be in the right spot at the right time. So there's certain clubs in Second Life. Bluebird Cafe, actually, the Nashville Bluebird Cafe that's in Nashville,
Has a
Tennessee on
Second Life?
Hillsborough Road. At one time, I don't know if they still do, but at one time they had stage, and people would go on and play on the stage in virtual reality. Dirks Bentley, I think I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
He was in Second Life when he released his album in, I think, 2012 or something. He actually released it in Second Life, or played a show in Second Life, or something like that. U2, several big name acts have been in Second Life, doing their performance. So it's
So they just set up their microphones here in the living room, and it then goes into the computer and becomes the avatar performing.
Yes.
So cool.
In real time. And you can you can modulate your voice. So if you want to sound like a female and you're actually male, or vice versa, you can do that.
So you can just be whomever you choose.
Be anyone you want.
That's so interesting. And how many people live in Second Life?
There are, I think, 15 million users or avatars. A lot of them are, either no longer logging in, or they're duplicates of another person. The concurrency, I think, is around 800,000 month to month. So I think about 800,000 people log in once a month or more. And these figures are probably old. Someone out there can correct me. But it's a large community, and it's the death of Second Life has been predicted so many times. I think the first time I read about Second Life dying was like in 2007. So we're still here and really having a good time. Come join us.
How much time do you spend in that world?
I spend probably 4 hours a day on Second Life.
Wow, fascinating. So usurping First Life, you spend that much time in Second Life. What do you do there?
To me, it happens at the same time. I'll have Second Life running, like I'll have the television running. And it's in the background, and if somebody, comes
so it operates in its own and interacts with you? Like you, in your Second Life world, you might be sitting on your couch and there'll be a knock at the door.
Yeah, exactly like that.
Okay.
So you don't have to actually be playing the whole time and pressing the fire button or whatever you do in other video games.
Yeah.
It's more of a passive thing, and it's a social thing where people see that you're online, and just like on Facebook, they'll hit you up and be like, "Oh, hey, what are you doing?" They really didn't even want to talk to you. They just saw that you're there, so they just.
Do you wear a microphone as you would and say, and then when you talk, your avatar is talking and they hear you?
You can do it that way. A lot of people type. A lot of people do both. Different environments for different.
Is there crime in Second Life?
Yes. One of the first big crimes, I think, casino was gamed. So they had a poker machine, and it had 10,000 shuffles in it. So one kid watched all 10,000 shuffles and knew what the next one was going to be because it was going in a loop. So on the 10,001th shuffle, he bet $1 zillion, and in a mere hours, this one whole casino was taken down. Since then, I think in 2009,
did he get reprimanded for that, or is that just gaming the system?
Well, I thought it was legitimate because he really didn't steal anything or deceive anybody.
It's like counting cards.
Yeah, he just counted cards. But I'm sure that he would have gotten banned from Second Life, or something would have happened. But he probably just logged out and sold the money and got it out. But they've outlawed gambling since then, and I think Second Life is better for it because a lot of people were just going there to do that. Now that stopped a lot of the growth because a lot of people were coming in just to gamble. But Second Life is so much more than that. I felt like the gambling part was kind of overshadowing the human interaction.
Okay, are there sex workers on Second Life?
Yes.
Wow, fascinating.
Every advance in technology, from the very first advance in technology, very first imaging advance, photography, anything, was always around pornography, or you can call it art or eroticism or whatever.
Sure.
But that's what fed the internet when it first started, and that was a major part of Second Life when it first started. Now it's since developed into blossomed into a full community, much like the internet has. A smaller and smaller majority of the internet is porn than it used to be. But that element still is there, and yes, you can go and pay someone to have virtual sex with you in Second Life.
Fascinating.
And it's a real person. You can hear their voice and talk to them.
Did you see the movie Her?
I did. I love that with Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, it was a great movie. And I thought the intimacy achievement in that movie was so intriguing.
It was very interesting.
And I assume that in Second Life, that is basically how it works out.
2 of the people that worked for me in Second Life married in real life.
Having not ever met, only their avatars?
Never met. They both came to work. One of them was already working there. And I sell land in Second Life, for lack of a better term. In real life, you would call it a web host. I lease server space. But one of them was working. The other one came in to buy some land, and they struck up a conversation. And pretty soon they started working there. And then
without ever seeing themselves in real life?
Probably. And then at some point, I guess they actually had to, because they ended up getting married, but one of them moved from one state to another state, and it was really...
So you're a real estate broker in Second Life. What does that mean exactly?
So in Second Life, you can exist in a public space, and once a day that public space is cleared off like a sandbox, and you start all over again the next day. It takes all your objects. So you could build this massive house or skyscraper, but it won't stay there. So a lot of people, when they put that much work into building an object, they want it to be there when they log back in. So they will buy a piece of real estate. In real terms, they will lease part of a server, like you would if you had a website and you wanted to host your website on a server. So they will lease this space and put their objects, maybe a dog, maybe a car, whatever they've bought or
Definitely
built.
a dog.
and that's the other cool thing about this economy. If you build a house that's really cool, you can sell it to other players in the game.
Later on.
Or if you build a car or something else, like somebody says, oh, wow, I like your house. You can say, well, I'll sell you a copy of it for, let's say in real world money, like 22 cents. And if you sell thousands of those, then pretty soon you're making money.
And how long have you been a member of Second Life?
I joined in April 6th of 2006.
How do you begin a life there like anything else? You move to a town and I mean, I assume you use real world currency and put it into Second Life, and that way you can begin your Second Life world.
You can, or you can exist without money. There's plenty of free places in Second Life.
But if you want to lease land and all that, that requires real world money to go into Second Life.
Yeah, you would use a credit card or some other way to get money in.
Sure.
But it's free to join. It's free to play. If you're in the public spaces, you can go take classes. You can learn how to build. A lot of people never actually paid anything into Second Life. They just got so good at it that other people started paying them to build things. So that made them enough money where they could buy a house, they could lease some server space or buy some land. And they've never put a dime in Second Life. They've just logged in, become good at it. And what I mean by building is it's a lot like AutoCAD or computer assisted drawing. You take primitive objects like a sphere, a cone, a pyramid shape, and you stack those on top of each other in different sizes, and you can manipulate the colors. And
very artistic.
You could take a picture of yourself, upload it into Second Life, and put your actual face on an object. Just use that as the texture.
So if you want a billboard,
or just a ball, you could, like a head, you could wrap your image around a sphere, and it would look strange, but people do it.
What kind of money do people make living in Second Life?
So the last time I checked, and this has been a while ago, there were 5,000 people making a full-time living in Second Life. And I'd be one of those.
What, $40,000 a year or something?
Or more.
Or more, yeah.
And I'd be one of those. So I have no idea what it is today, but there are a lot of people just having fun. There are a lot of people making just a little bit of money, and then there's 5,000 or so making an actual living.
That is so fascinating. This has been really intriguing. I'm sure I'll come up with more questions. I do know one question I wanted to ask about cryptocurrency, going back a little bit.
Sure.
And you spoke of, there's sex workers, which are, I assume there's no rules. There's no like you have to be 18 to sleep with this sex worker.
We do have child pornography restrictions in Second Life. So if you do something that resembles child pornography, then you'll get banned and your avatar will get banned. Even if it's video game, even if it's cartoon, even if it's anything closely related to child anything, then they'll put their foot down on that. Other than that,
well, that's good to know.
Yeah, other than that, just be. We have this thing called griefing. You're not supposed to cause another player grief.
Okay.
So if that means just by walking past them and saying, "Hey, you look stupid," well, that's griefing. So
there's a morality code.
Yeah, and it's much different than our First Amendment in the United States. In Second Life, they're pretty strict about if you're actively going out trying to cause trouble,
sure,
we'll just kick you off the island.
Fascinating.
And you can ban people from certain parts of Second Life. So if you want to let them, still stay in this part but not come into some of the more exclusive zones, you can set a territorial ban.
Is there a gross misrepresentation of wealth in Second Life the way there is in the world?
I think people try to become a younger, hotter, taller, richer version of themselves. That seems to be the default. It's like Instagram. A lot of people do that. Some people want to turn into a dragon. Some people want to be R2-D2.
I would like a tail if I were
a lot of people do. They're called furries. There's a whole community that just has furry. And then another part of Second Life is there's ratings. So there's a G rating, PG rating, and an adult rating. So you can choose which area of Second Life you want to go to. And if you go to the adult section, you're going to see some adult things. So get ready.
Oh, interesting. So very interesting. So in the cryptocurrency world, we sort of touched on the nefarious activities. And I know that some of the opponents say, well, the stronger that cryptocurrency gets, the more likely that these horrible things will happen, like human trafficking, or if you want to go buy a kid or something, or whatever it is. I guess that's still human trafficking. But you get what I'm trying to, or drugs, or heroin, or whatever it is. But it seems to me that it's truly no different than the way people spend regular money.
It's exactly that way. So anything that existed before Bitcoin still exists. And as far as Bitcoin's morality, Forbes did an excellent piece either a few months ago or recently about blockchain and emerging markets benefiting the world's poor, pulling the world's poor out of poverty. I think the key words were blockchain, emerging markets, and poverty.
I'll look for it and post it on my website.
Please do. It was by Forbes. It's an excellent article about how Bitcoin is seen to be bad by some people, but the reality is it's helping the vast majority of people in the world become more connected.
Well, people are scared of something new, generally speaking. Yeah. So it doesn't surprise me that it gets vilified before people truly understand it. That's just the way human beings work. Thank you, John.
You're very welcome.
This has been really so very fascinating.
Please, anyone out there listening, if you're interested in mining, send me an email. I'll tell you how to get started. If you're interested in joining Second Life, please go to secondlife.com. It's free to sign up.
Yeah, and again, John's email is learnavatar@gmail.com, and I'll put a link to that on heyhumanpodcast.com. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Go out and buy some cryptocurrency. Who knows? You might save the world.
Save the world.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.